The PS2 era is one of the greatest pillars of modern gaming. It shaped the industry in a way that is hardly ever going back. When I was just a kid, my go-to dream console was the PlayStation 2 in all its glory. I live in Brazil, and the only way to have the console at the time was buying from people that imported it. But it was really expensive, and because of that, I would only have my PS2 when it was already the norm seeing PS3s on the shelves of game stores. I could spend a lifetime talking about the games that were an important part of my life during that time. We could talk about Resident Evil 4, God of War 1 and 2, Mortal Kombat, Dynasty Warriors, Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2. Yeah, I know. Well, you got the picture. And maybe one day we will talk about all those games here. Not Naruto, though I'll leave that one for my memories. But there is one title that always passed right through me and never got the treatment it deserved. So, I finally played Black, 16 years after its release. For those who live under a rock, Black is a PS2 and Xbox game released in 2006, developed by Criteriongames and published by EA. At its core, Black is basically a linear first-person shooter with a lot, and I mean a lot, of action. It is not very hard to argue that Black is the firstborn of modern FPS, even though Modern Warfare has all the credit for modernizing the genre. And well, technically speaking, that was not the first time that I've ever played the game. Even though everyone always talked about it, the only thing I had ever done was launch it and play half of the first mission, which is not a lot, considering that you could easily beat it in less than 30 minutes, and less than 20 if you're not like me, the guy who likes to explore everything even in linear shooters. When I finished the game, I felt like there was something to say there. At the time, I didn't know what. The game was not amazingly good, nor was it bad. See, for a PS2 game, Black is really pretty. It is clearly a game that was intended to look amazing, and if you play it from a 2006 point of view, it is. And I guess this is the whole reason why this video even exists. The game has great visuals, for the time. It had an impressive variety of guns, for the time. The gameplay and the explosive action was really well made, for the time. You got the picture. The experience playing Black can be easily frustrating depending on your perspective starting the game. The surreal amounts of particles and visual effects can be a little irritating, and the fact that it's impossible to customize it makes it worse. Most of the game, you'll basically walk around galleries with tons of enemies that can easily be killed. Almost every mission tries to make you feel like a superpowered guy and have all that illusion of power, but at the end, it is basically a little kid killing ants. You go to a new zone, kill a bunch of guys, and move on to the next one. The game is 6 to 8 hours long, depending on your playstyle and skill. And most objectives are simply go from point A to point B, and basically kill everything in between. Most of the scenery is generic and industrial, which makes some of the missions quite repetitive. And that's even more apparent when you consider the color profile of the game. It is just boring. The AI is so dumb, you could basically kill all of them while they were side by side and the game wouldn't get them into an alert stage. They just go past dead bodies and don't give a shit. And while in combat, there's a lot of situations of them just running towards you with no cover whatsoever. Almost 100% of the story, yes, there is one, is told through live-action cutscenes filled with exposition about the plot. And don't get me started on the last mission. They just throw hundreds of generic enemies in your face and that's it. And after all that, all you get is a cutscene that leaves a really open ending to the game. But my issues with the game are not those. Black has all the problems you would expect from a generic modern shooter. If you stuck a Call of Duty right before the name, people wouldn't even notice the difference. But those things do not necessarily make it a bad game, quite the opposite. And this is, obviously, not where the game shines. Despite all I just said, I enjoyed my time playing Black. It doesn't feel old, the gameplay is good, the soundtrack is really amazing, And there is something about playing these simple old shooters that is just satisfying. Almost every environment that we go through has its share of possibilities of destruction, walls and doors being the most common. It's odd to even say this, but if you consider that nowadays not many games rely on that type of immersion, it is a pretty interesting aspect of the game. And it is almost unnecessary to talk about graphics. You can really see how visually intense the game was, mostly if you compare it to other PS2 titles. The open-ending aspect of the plot basically guarantees that EA and Criterion really wanted to make a sequel, and if you go after that type of information, you will see a lot of interesting articles and videos on the subject. I mean, it is basically enough talk to have an entire video about it, and maybe in the future we will revisit this story. But when you choose to talk about the good stuff, makes it really clear that Black is a product of its time. And that explains why so many people see it through the glasses of nostalgia. There were not many PS2 FPSs, at least not as popular and well marketed as this one, so the game ended up filling this gap and being really important for a lot of people. For me, well, the experience playing such a popular title made it all worth it. It's really weird that basically all the good and the bad from Black operates on the game's focus. It is a direct-to-the-point FPS, but it ignored many of the aspects that were already becoming important for FPSs back in the day, mainly considering storytelling and relevant characters. I think that what I take with me is that Black is good enough in every aspect that it proposes, but the feeling after beating the game is that there is something missing, something bigger, invisible, and intangible. Black is basically a popcorn action Hollywood movie. It is like playing in control of the protagonists of said movies. And because of that, the game ends up being not memorable. There is not a single moment that I would remember after finishing the game. Nothing there is truly remarkable, if you have a look, like I did, without the nostalgia glasses on. The game is everything you would ever want in an FPS. If all you ever wanted was a run and gun shoot everything type of game with no story whatsoever. There is not much to it besides that. It is sad that the sequel got cancelled. Black for itself gathered a big cult following. The game is weirdly popular in Brazil. Only by researching the original soundtrack, I was flooded with comments considering the best game ever, or the best FPS ever made. And I would love to see this title revisited, considering that we live in the era of remasters and remakes. Maybe that would open the path for a second game. We will for sure talk more about Black in the channel, but for now, that's it, my experience playing the game for the first time. Thanks for watching. I'm so happy to have a place to talk about the things I love the most in my life, and I will keep doing it no matter what. This video was inspired by the So I Finally Played series from Racevic. If you enjoyed the video, consider supporting the channel in any way, shape or form. A like, comment or share in any place will be appreciated. Until the next one, bye.